Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely crucial for the waste management industry, specifically the SASB Sustainability Accounting Standard for Workforce Health and Safety. Now, this isn't just about regulatory compliance or filling out some spreadsheet. This is about understanding the exact metrics we use to track the physical well-being of the people powering this essential sector. Let's jump right into how we calculate and track crucial health and safety metrics, like the total recordable incident rate, fatality rates, and near misses. We've got a packed agenda today. We're going to cover the industry's safety challenge, the core rate formula, calculating TIR and fatalities, tracking near misses, separating direct versus contract employees, and finally, commercial road accidents. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the industry's safety challenge. To kick things off, we really need to understand the specific environment we're measuring here. It's a tough but totally critical question, right? Why exactly does the waste management industry have higher fatality rates than most other industries? Understanding the answer to this is literally the foundation of why this rigorous, standardized tracking across the sector is so incredibly necessary. When you look at the hazards, the risks are pretty intense. Fatalities and serious injuries are overwhelmingly driven by transportation incidents, coming into contact with hazardous objects or heavy equipment, and exposure to harmful substances. And here's something super important to flag from the SASB guidelines. Temporary workers can actually face an even higher risk, usually due to less training or industry experience. So, tracking these metrics accurately, it's not just paperwork. It empowers entities to build proactive safety management plans that can literally save lives. And this perfectly illustrates where these requirements live inside the SASB standards table for the infrastructure sector. We're zeroing in on disclosure topic IFWM 320A.1, which covers TIR, fatality rates, and near misses, alongside IFWM 320A.3, which is all about tracking road accidents and incidents. Section 2, the core rate formula. All right, let's move on to the math and look at the single formula that drives almost this entire standard. This right here is the foundational equation. Whether you're calculating total recordable injuries, fatalities, or near misses, the basic structure is exactly the same. You just take your specific incident count, multiply it by 200,000, and then divide that by the total number of hours worked by all employees in that reporting year. Now, you might be looking at that and wondering, okay, why 200,000? It's a very specific multiplier, and I promise you, it wasn't just pulled out of thin air. This magic number actually represents the total hours that 100 full-time employees would work in a standard year. It's just 100 workers times a 40-hour work week times 50 weeks a year. Boom, 200,000. Using this creates a normalized baseline, which means you can fairly compare your rates against any other entity in the industry, answering the big question, how many incidents happen per 100 full-time workers? Section 3, calculating TIR and fatalities. So let's actually apply that formula now, starting with the total recordable incident rate, or TIR for short, and the fatality rate. To figure out your TIR, you first have to know what actually counts as a recordable incident. Under the standard, this means a work-related injury or illness that results in death, days away from work, restricted work or job transfer, medical treatment beyond first aid, or loss of consciousness. It also includes any major injury diagnosed by a licensed healthcare professional. The big takeaway here, basic first aid, emergency care given before regular medical aid can be provided, does not count towards your TIR. An incident has to hit one of those more severe criteria. And remember, whether we're talking about recordable injuries or calculating the fatality rate, the incident absolutely has to be definitively work-related. It has to result from events or exposures in the work environment. But keep in mind, the work environment isn't just a physical facility. It includes the equipment and materials the employee is using, and it even covers traveling, as long as the employee was engaged in work activities for the employer at the time. Oh, and one quick side note, a work-related incident must be a brand new case, not just an update to a previously recorded injury. Section 4, tracking near misses. Next up, we calculate the near-miss frequency rate, or NMFR, using that exact same core formula. But what exactly qualifies as a near miss? Near misses are those heart-stopping, whoa, that was way too close kinds of calls. The SASB standard defines a near miss as an unplanned incident where no property damage, environmental damage, or personal injury actually occurred, but where it easily could have, if there had just been a slight shift in circumstances. Tracking these is an absolute game changer for identifying hazards before they actually turn into recordable incidents. But you've got to watch out for this specific SASB carve-out. When you're calculating your near-miss frequency rate, employees whose primary job function is operating entity vehicles are strictly excluded from the scope of the calculation. Keep that in mind when you're pulling your data, because throwing your primary drivers in there will completely skew your reporting against the standard. Section 5, Direct versus Contract Employees. All right, let's dive into how we classify the people actually doing the work. This is a massive part of the standard, because SASB requires the TRIR, fatality rate, and near-miss frequency rate to be calculated and reported completely separately for two distinct groups of your workforce. First, you have direct employees. These are individuals sitting right on your entity's payroll. This covers full-time, part-time, executives, seasonal, hourly, the whole group. On the flip side, you have contract employees. These folks are not on your payroll, but they operate under your day-to-day supervision. Think independent contractors or people employed by third parties like temp agencies. You have to run the rate formulas for these two groups entirely independently. So two separate calculations, two separate reports. Section 6, Commercial Road Accidents. Finally, let's move on to our last safety metric for this explainer, tracking commercial road accidents. Because transportation is such a primary hazard in waste management, it gets its own specific reporting category. To officially log a road accident under the standard, the event has to meet three specific sequential criteria. First, was it a commercial vehicle actively engaged in commercial activities? Second, did it result in disabling damage? And third, did that damage require the vehicle to be towed away from the scene or completely abandoned? If it hits all three, you've got a loggable accident. Well, it's just as important to know what is purposefully excluded from the accident category. For instance, if someone is just boarding or getting out of a stationary vehicle, that does not count as a road accident here. Similarly, an event that only involves loading or unloading cargo from a parked truck is completely excluded from being logged as an accident. Now, what if an event out on the road doesn't meet those severe criteria for a towed accident? Well, it might still qualify as a road incident. The standard defines an incident as any event involving a licensed vehicle while on business use that results in a recordable injury or illness, vehicle damage, or other property damage. Essentially, at a bare minimum, you must disclose any accidents or incidents that get reported to local authorities. So, what does this all mean for us? By rigorously applying these exact definitions and formulas, you ensure transparency and fair comparability across the whole sector. But look, compliance is really just the baseline. By calculating separate TIR and fatality rates for your direct and contract workers, monitoring those heart-stopping near misses, and properly categorizing road incidents, you are actively protecting the people who power your operations every single day. So I'll leave you with this. How will you use this standardized data to move beyond a simple spreadsheet and actually build a proactive safety culture that ensures every single worker makes it home safe? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.